Hi, everybody. Dr. Donna here. I have my wizard hat on. My twin has one too. Every year, we've been adding branches of education into our medical certification courses. Certification is in holistic medicine. And we've been doing case collaboration with our students from day one. In fact, we actually got started with healthcare practitioners looking over our shoulder, watching what we do, how the flow of our clinic worked. We had gone from 30 remedy lines down to 3. And a lot of that had to do with the complex formulas that were targeting the multi-levels of tissue from the organs into the cells. So anyway, I'm actually coming on today to talk about that every year as we've added things on, we ended up bringing people into Colorado to do retreats, healthcare practitioners. And the reason for that is we discovered that they were unable to hold the intentional field. And why is that? Well, as we look at this, we can clearly see that doctor means teacher, but the doctors have been considered the saviors for a long time. And so it's really easy for a healthcare practitioner to have bioenergetic tools that they can use. But intention drives matter. And so if the focus is on fixing someone, then there's always going to be a problem to fix. And so our role is actually to give people the tools to come back into the healing cycle, which feels awesome. It feels awesome to be completely high on life, to be able to feel everything, all of our glands. And so we started bringing people into nature because foot reflexology has been part of our clinic since, we actually certified people in foot reflexology in our preschool environment. This was part of the family systems that we were putting in place as we had moved from providing 13 functional learning area preschools, which has to do with individuals' gifts and being able to help them use all parts of their body. So during that time, I would look at the child's aura as they would come in with the parent, and I would watch the bond between the parent and the child to see if it was one that I would be able to integrate into the preschool and provide the family with exactly what they needed. So doing all these interviews and actually teaching this to other child development associates, we ended up having to add in parenting courses, which ultimately started getting into them understanding that anytime a child or an animal has a behavior problem, it's actually originating between the two of them. That is the DNA bond. And so there's this whole science of entanglement, which got started from quantum physics. But then there were, very specific tests that were done, scientific provings, peer-reviewed, to prove it out. And a lot of it has to do with the physics of telepathy. So one of the main things that we got involved in was teaching people about our twin bond. And while my twin sister and I have never spoken about what we've been doing, it's just part of who we are. So the retreats were awesome. We ended up doing 3 5-day semi-silent retreats where people had to come in and form union with their body. This is the child of light. It's the inner child. And so the pathways are inside the body. It was very interesting to watch what happened when we went into a silent period, and we did it before meals. Everyone would go to the kitchen, commercial kitchen, and cupboards just stocked full of stuff that people could kind of go in and say, oh, and we'd pull everything out on this countertop, big square countertop, and everybody just went for the dishes they needed. Some people, took the ingredients and made soups, but it was completely silent, and they learned how to communicate through their spines, through silent conversation, smiling, yumming it up, pointing to certain things, and what a depth of connection is offered through that type of setting. And same, what happens right before that is sunrise yoga. And I've been doing yoga since I first saw it as a child. Our mom used to take us to a bookstore and let us pick out as many books as we wanted for, she would say 5-book limit. But, and then we would go on vacation to a water site and just spend so much time reading and swimming and nourishing through food and being quiet. Yeah. And so being able to pass this on has been awesome. And the retreats were great. They graduated. One was about surfing the daily fertility cycle. So for people wanting to become fertile, it brings you back into that. And for people wanting to reverse age, it brings you into that. Because anytime we move into the one pulsation, moving in the present moment, and we can actually feel it, it's a game changer. Because the conversation shifts from this above the head, comparing notes, to talking about the present moment and the sensory experience. So this has come out of adding more and more branches onto the Institute, including, we wrote all these extra courses in 2014. We added on pediatrics, which has been my specialty since day one. I'm a pediatric naturopath, a veterinary naturopath, who, with those under your belt, it's all about embryology, because that just built upon my child development associate. And when you factor in the aviation science part of it, becoming a pilot, we learn that the space between us is really rich with energy and information. In fact, that's where clouds are formed. And so part of what we do when you come to Colorado is cloud watching and cloud busting, right? This is the second retreat, was focused on harnessing the intentional field. And so with that, we got into cracking everybody's vibrational code. And at that point, we were just focused on looking at a medical birth chart. And that's where we can see health constitution. And when you look at that, you see their elemental makeup, which if you go back in and you think about the third phase of the college, this part of the healing template right here, which is, just read that right there. right? That's where we get into the cellular structure. And we know that right behind that is this sine wave. And we know that it's moving in through the thymus gland. And when the thymus gland shrivels, we've got this duality that happens. And so there's a separation between the head and the body. There's a separation between me and you. And this is what duality is. So when you're an identical twin who has been in the womb together, you can feel your spine, and that's what this is. So this right here is the rod. This is the staff. And this is the intentional field. So the first breath that you take when you leave the womb, the latitude, the longitude, has a certain light essence. So there's a certain amount of light there. There's a certain mindset. When we look at the time period, even the year that you're born, there's a vibrational frequency. So if we look at 19, if you want to start seeing the spine as the divining rod, but it's also the musical instrument for the body. And as the musical instrument, everybody's playing a note. Everyone is. And if you've ever walked up to someone and they kind of rub you the wrong way, likely you have the same miasma. And so the way to know that is to start to decode the spine and to realize that the reason to do this is we live in a universe. One verse, one song. And this information came through as I came back to Colorado to bring the healthcare model. We needed to build one clinic that people around the world could see what we were doing. And we've had our eyes set on this since 95. When I started realizing that doing what we were doing one by one and hosting groups of practitioners to come in and watch what I was doing, part of the type of medicine that I do, that I provide is it unifies all models of medicine. And so there's not Eastern and Western, there's not good and bad. There's a time and a place for everything. But to understand the cycle for each one and the intention requires us to go back and do a medical history class. And that means look at the worldview. And when we begin to do that, it brings us into ascension. So knowing how to align the organs and systems in the circadian clock, this is basic fertility. And so when we put someone on an opening channels program, we're realigning the fertility cycle that takes place every single day. Every single day it does. And there's the same light cycle that's moving through everyone, and it actually moves up through the spine here. And when my twin sister and I were little, we played this game called Watching Actions. And playing this game, we just picked someone out to bear witness to. And we could be sitting across the room from one another, and I could look into her eyes, and she could look towards a person. And, I would look at the person, and the two of us would sit and honor the flow of electromagnetism moving through this person. And we could see it was so slowed down that there was actual intention. And we were even able to read into how the feeling was moving to the thought and then to the action. It's not vice versa. So anytime there's a split, you put your head back on the torso so that you can feel the connected space. And this is the only way that we can move out of these doctors who are looking to fix people instead of empower people to come all the way into the light cycle. I'll come back and give you more. Love you guys. Bye for now.